see in the chat that we can already feel the vibes. It's a pleasure to welcome you all for this DigiFit webinar, where we will navigate digital transformation journey for grassroots sports. And we are here today to start sharing some information and try to build a community all together. There were a lot of people who registered, a lot of interest, and there's probably some people that will be joining on the way. So I'm just sharing few housekeeping rules. I'm sure COVID has been there years ago, so now we are very familiar with those rules, but just so you have it in mind. And another information for you all, you probably heard it when you joined the room, but I just wanted to be shared officially. This webinar is recorded because we're going to use it for those who are not able to join but registered as a replay. This was a very brief introduction from me, but I should say who I am because there is a lot of newbie. I am Carol, working for ISCA, and I've been leading the DigiFit project on behalf of ISCA and with the amazing partners that are around the table. You will see some of their faces today. We had a partner from Portugal, from Ireland, from Denmark, France, and Belgium. You can see all of their logo down in the slides. And what we have been doing together since January 2023 is exploring what's needed for grassroots sports to get into the digital transformation journey. And we have developed 7 actionable deliverables. You will discover some of them today. That's our pleasure to introduce it. And we have also supported 10 pilot teams, and 3 of them will be sharing their stories. By pilot, we mean some organization, a good mix of organization, and we are going to tell you more about it later in this webinar. So that's what we have been on since January 2023, and we are almost ending the project, and that's why we are gathering you as a community to share our learnings, to hear from you, and to see what the future has in stock for us. And with this, I'm going to give the floor very shortly to one of our partners. But just so you know, on our menu for today, as I mentioned, we are going to hear about the project journey. We're going to hear about some of the pilot team and their lived experience in terms of embracing digitalization. We are also lucky to have an expert. I'm pretty sure there is more than one, but we will have a keynote from Lucy Meads from Spain. And you will have, as I mentioned, opportunity to interact and ask questions. So anytime, please feel free to use the chat if you have any question. We are monitoring it for the official Q&A session. And one last request, if you hear anything that you believe is worth sharing, you can use our official DigiFit hashtag to share it on social media. That will help us make the project spread out of this room. And now I'm inviting Jakob to come on board and start. So Jakob is from Denmark, and start sharing some of the other information that we have identified during the project.
Thank you very much, Carol, and good afternoon to everyone. As Carol mentioned, I'm Jakob, working for DGI in Denmark, where we try to assist just about 7,000 different sport grassroots clubs with their, well, everything from volunteering to digitalization, which is, of course, the main issue here. I'll be taking a short dive into the why we did this and some of the potentials. So this is my very short agenda for the next just about 9 or 10 minutes. I'll give you a very short intro in just a brief few seconds. Then I'll go into a little bit about the performance and the status of some of the clubs that we've had through a survey. And then I'll dive into some different areas of digitalization that has room for improvement and some potential. And then I'll end it all with a very short insight about some of the ambitions, challenges, and potentials within this area. So next slide, please. Thank you, Carol. And overall, the goal of this DigiFit experience, this DigiFit project, is to develop the digital readiness, the digital resilience, and the digital capacity in these sport grassroots clubs. And in order to figure out where the potential for this development actually is, we did this DigiFit survey just about a bit more than a year ago. We had 355 answers from different sport clubs in 5 different countries. Very broadly represented, all the way from a club stating they had only 10 members to a club stating they had 13,000 members, volunteer numbers from 0 to 6,000, number of employees from 0 to 80, and number of sports they actually offer to those members in those clubs, all the way from 1 sport to 30 different sports in 1 club. So I would say a very broad representation of very many different clubs in this survey, and I'll dive into some of the answers on some of the different questions we give them on the next slide, where we have an overall short intro about the performance and the current status of those clubs when they answered this. 2 things were very interesting in the very beginning. We asked them to state some short insights about their current performance in those clubs, and specifically funding and volunteering. They stated that only just about 20% thought they had high performance in those areas, and more than 36% considered themselves performing on a low level within this. We then followed up with asking them about their current digital status, the way they handle digitalization in those clubs. Only 11% of them actually follow a plan that they also updated, where 53% stated they didn't really think they needed a plan. They thought they were somewhat using the relevant digital tools, and 14% stated they really needed a plan to actually implement new digital solutions. And on the next slide, I'll go into some of those different areas that we asked them about. The highlighted in orange here are the 5 that showed the most potential, but we had these 14 very different areas of digitalization, areas where there are different digital tools that they can implement in their associations, everywhere from administrative tasks, different solutions helping them administer the different members, economics, everything there, all the way to sponsors and funding, attracting new sponsors. But with these 5 highlighted in orange, showing the greatest potential all the way from here, infrastructure management to servicing members. And with servicing members, a somewhat broad category, we're talking about, for example, tools for training, tools that give a better experience for the spectators who may be at those games the club represent. And on the next slide, I'll start with just a very short insight. Well, here, just before that, you have an overview with a bit more graphic focus that I can only encourage you to go visit and read more about these different 5 areas in our online learning tool. You'll get a QR code and not that many slides, so you can go directly there just after this webinar. But these are the 5 areas that showed the greatest potential. And the next slide, please, Carol. Thank you. And yes, here it says 12 areas. We bundled some of them to make it a bit easier to explain. But overall, infrastructure management, the way we asked these 355 clubs who answered questions here, we asked them if they use a solution within this area and whether or not they find it beneficial. The ones not using it, we asked if they saw potential in starting to use this. And all the way through on these first 3, you can see that more than 30% of them in these 3 use it. And from 88% all the way to 96% of the ones actually currently using solutions in those areas, digital solutions, of course, find it highly beneficial. And from the ones not using it, it's all the way from 62 all the way to 70% of the ones not currently using these solutions who see potential in starting to do so. And on the next 2, on the next slide, we have gadgets in sports, anything from wearables to gimmicks, gadgets that just make it more fun to be in this specific sport. And servicing members, the one I shortly mentioned just beforehand, a broad category, everything from training all the way to spectator experience. And again, we see huge benefit reported from the ones using it, and 67%, so more than 2/3 of the people not using it, who actually see great potential in starting to do so. And on the next slide, we'll shortly get into, well, before that, these remaining 7 areas I just want to mention. We have 5 that show huge potential, but actually the remaining 7 also, all of them show great potential, all the way from 41% stating, the ones not using it, that they could see benefit in doing so, and all the way up to 87% specifically for administrative tasks. I just want to disclaim here that one of the reasons we didn't have administrative tasks as one of the 5 highlighted, even though it shows huge potential here, is that quite a lot of the clubs are already using solutions in that area, wherefore there's not that much of a gap. There's not that many clubs that we could potentially help there. But still, all of these areas are highly relevant to improve the digital status of those sport grassroots clubs. And on the next slide, we'll take a short dive into some of the ambitions and some of the reasons these clubs are not using these solutions and not implementing them yet anyways. First of all, 33% of them answered that there were solutions within management, recruiting, funding that they were actually considering using, but didn't. 20% stated the same for different gimmicks, gadgets, wearables that could actually be used in the actual sports activity that they were considering using, but did not. And then, of course, we asked, why? Why don't you do this? If you see a huge potential and if you're more or less ready and you've already talked a bit about it in the club, main 3 reasons, and I guess this is no surprise to any of us, lack of money, lack of staff that could be volunteering. And we saw on the very first slide that especially finance and volunteering are some of the performance areas they're not doing well in. So those 2 are the main 2. And then limited time, which relates to both of them. If you don't have money, you don't have time. If you don't have volunteers, you don't have time. So the 3 main reasons: lacking money, lacking staff, and lacking time to actually have an overview of these different solutions and go from that day-to-day operations into actual development. And the next slide, please. In short, as shortly mentioned, funding, volunteering, low performance, that's a big issue. 5 areas show huge potential, which the additional 7 also do. Only 27% of all the clubs who answered this survey actually have a plan for digital innovation or digital development, even though there is this much potential and so many of them see huge potential in doing so. Finance, staff, and time, the main issues. And on the next slide, with finance, we can't offer them funding, even though through this EU project and through the European Union in this project, we have supported the clubs with a bit of finance in order to actually start implementing this. Of course, we can't expect that for every club who's going to go through this online learning tool. So money, we can't directly help them with. But if we build their capacity, if we increase their readiness for digitalization and assist them creating a plan to actually make this new innovation, this new digitalization, one of these areas come into their club, we can help them with time. Time is money, as we all know, and then they can actually use those volunteers that they already have even better. And aside from that, quite a lot of these solutions could actually also be used to recruit new volunteers. So in short, I can only encourage all of you to grab this QR code, spread it out to any sport grassroots clubs that you think could actually use some insights on how to create a plan, how to be more ready, and how to implement some digital solutions. And that's more or less it from me before we go over to what it's all about, the actual sport grassroots clubs.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jakob and Carol, for your introductions. My name is William Harmon, and I'm here in County Kerry, southwest of Ireland. It is dry, it is cold, and looking forward to Santa, even though I look like Santa at the moment. I'm also joined by my colleague, Derek Comerford. Derek, do you want to come in and say hello?
Hey guys, I'm also in the southwest of Ireland, but in Tralee in the car at work. So I apologise for not being more organised, but I couldn't get out a call. So I'm on the call, but Will is going to do most of the presenting for us today.
Brilliant. So we are Fairies football, ladies football and hurling club. And as you see on the screen, we have all the teams that represent all our various groups across our club. We're a small rural-based club in the southwest of Ireland, County Kerry. There's 3 parishes involved. There's Fairies, there's Ballyhar and Farm 4. And we cater for, as I said, all age groups from under 6 right up to adult level across all the various sports, being football, ladies football and hurling. So, yeah, so Carol. So what is our why? Very similar to Jacob. And I suppose once we know our why, then we can probably progress on. And that's a very important question we all always need to answer. So it's to create specific coaching materials for our new and existing coaches. So our challenge was, we have people in our club. We're very lucky. We have a lot of really good people in our club that have, I suppose, good coaching experience, knowledge. But I suppose we just didn't seem to have a platform to, I suppose, relay that to the rest of our coaches in our club. So we're very much reliant on in-person sessions with our coaches, practical workshops. But we have also devised an awful lot of good coaching material internally, but it was never in one area where coaches could access this and are ready made on their phone or their laptop, whatever it may be. So that was our challenge, was how do we transfer all the information we have, all the resources we have into a one-stop shop for our coaches in our club. And Derek, you can come in at any stage when you need to.
No, you're doing well. I'll leave you at it.
Thank you very much, Derek. I appreciate that. Okay. So what was our vision? Again, let's go back to upskilling our coaches. So we're very lucky. We have really good people involved in our club, but how can we support them? And I suppose research shows that we support them early and give them guidance early to ensure that they can do the best job possible. So that's by helping them along in their coaching journey, by providing, I suppose, support and advice and resources to them on a regular basis. So ensuring that the coaching techniques that everybody's doing across the board are aligned with our coaching values and philosophy. And that's very important to us, that we all have a common goal and that we're all trying to strive towards that goal. And by, I suppose, giving that support throughout, we're in person or through a digital format, was very important to us. So what was our aims? To create a platform that will devise and store and plan sessions. So a lot of coaches, they plan and they devise stuff, but pass it on, to give it to the next coaches coming over the coming years, to help them in the journey, to view drills and activities specific to their age cohort, so to give them new ideas. So if I'm training the group next Sunday, next Saturday, okay, is there somewhere I can go that I can get a few ideas to be able to help me deliver that session and plan for that session, and to access a coach's corner while our coaches can share knowledge, discuss coaching matters, and interact with each other. That's important to us. So if we have a coaching issue, that we can throw it into the group and we can share our knowledge and expertise internally through an online platform. Yes, we do it in person, but wouldn't it be fantastic that if I was sitting in my sitting room and I had something that I wanted to get an answer to, well, I can throw in that comment and someone could come across with their own expertise and knowledge. So it's providing that platform for people to engage, interact on a regular basis. Okay, so next slide there. I think it's gone into a different format, Carl. So yeah, brilliant. So our target group, who was it? Our underage coaches, all our coaches, not just in one code, but across all three codes. That's been the football, which is the boys, the ladies football, and the hurling for our club. So they're our target groups, everybody in the club. And we wanted to create a specific coaching content. So content that's specific to our club, that we've utilized and maximized that resource internally to help coaches along their journey and in line with our coaching philosophy and values. And then, now that we have all that information, how do we put it on a platform so people can share and utilize it and I suppose support them in their journey? So what were our main objectives? So we linked in with BST Coach, and Derek can give you a bit more information on that in a few minutes. But we wanted to customize their platform specific to the Fires Gated Games Club. So they have a really good digital resource there with lots of resources internally that our coach could use. But how can we devise content that's specific to us? And how can we utilize their platform to get that out there? So to develop a coach's corner was another very specific, I suppose, want that we needed was, okay, well, we want our coaches communicating on a more regular basis. How do we achieve that? And that's where we linked in with BST Coach. And to enable our Fires Gated Games Club coaches to create specific content and platforms. And Carla, and if you want me, I can show 2 or 3 a 30-second clip of what that looks like. No problem at all. But we wanted to devise stuff that we've devised ourselves that's specific, because we feel that coaches will relate more to stuff that's specific to their needs and context, if that makes sense. So yes, of course, they can go to loads of other websites and get loads of activities and drills. But when there's something done internally that's specific to our own needs and context, we feel our coaches might latch onto that a bit more. And Derek, you can come in there on that if you want to expand.
Yeah, I suppose like there's loads of stuff on YouTube and GAA websites in Ireland. We just felt that if we had our own players doing what we like to do in Fireys, that they would engage far better with the platform. So that's what we went with. And we had our under 13 boys team that I was over last year come up with us, and we spent a day, about 3 or 4 hours, videoing with a professional videographer. And we did, I think, 9 videos on the day, which turned out to be great. The boys loved it. And we plan to share that with the coaches once they're put in place for the new year in January. So we'll display what we've done. You can create training routines, you can create session plans, all with our own kids in the videos, which was huge for us, that it's related to Fireys specifically.
And we're excited about that. I'm really looking forward to sharing this with our coaches early in the new year, when all our I suppose, coaches are in place. So what are our current status? We have a fully functioning platform now for sharing and creating those session plans in conjunction with BST Coach. And we have a coaches corner in place for coach collaboration. So additional to our in-person sessions, we now have an opportunity where people can engage, interact in a digital way over the coming weeks and months. Also, we've developed, as Derek has outlined, 8. Derek has put down great coaching videos, which I think, they came out okay. So we've kind of done, sample warm-up, sample ball formalization, so work with the ball, sample small-sided games, and little patterns of play that are very applicable to how we would like to play our game within the club, okay? So they're very much specific, again, to our own needs and context. So, so we've done a bit of videoing there recently, and they came out well. So we can share that with you if you want. There's no problem if we've got time. So what are our next steps? With the aid of more funding, we'd love to create more club content for the platform. We'd love to expand this. We'd love to have an opportunity. I know, Jacob, you spoke about that, giving that capacity and that readiness to plan in time. And I suppose that we're trying to go after that. Geez, wouldn't we love to do more of this and expand on it, and therefore have a fantastic resource available to our coaches? That's our aim. But obviously, funding would be, as outlined by yourself, Jacob, in that very important research you did, is an area that we have to tap into. So what was the project learning for us? The design thinking workshop in Paris, which we really, really enjoyed and was really, really beneficial, and got to meet great people. It was learning how to put ourselves in the shoes of our target audience. So we had an idea, but really what we found was that thinking workshop was kind of to really refine and just break it down to, well, what specifically are we going after? And that was a challenge in itself, and was exciting, and it was challenging at the same time. But it allowed us to ensure that, we're going after what we really need, and what was a good solution for what we were looking for. So while we came in with a broad sense of what we're looking for, we came out with a real kind of, refined, I suppose, focus, which then allowed us to ensure that the product that we have at the end of the day is what we're really, really after. So what are our challenges? We're an amateur status club, and in terms we're run by volunteers. And I suppose securing funding for something like this is very, very difficult. Hence why we're delighted to get the opportunity through the DigiFit program. So attracting the necessary investment to ensure technology remains part of our grassroots club is I suppose, a challenge for everyone, an ongoing challenge for everyone. But we see massive value in this, and it's something that, it will be a challenge, but I think it's something that we can overcome if we really put our minds to it. Derek, is there something you want to come in on that, maybe on that aspect as well?
No, I suppose like we've created 8 videos, but obviously the dream would be to create more and more. And again, the 8 we created are more aimed at coaches and how to get a coach up and running. So they're not short videos. We'd work with BST to adjust the size limit and stuff like that. So if we had the opportunity, we'd love to create shorter clips, length of TikTok videos, for example, to send to kids through their parents would be huge for us on the basic skills of Gaelic games and all 3 codes. So if we had an opportunity to skew more funding from the Irish government or wherever, we would love to go into that. So there are lots of parents out there that are not familiar with Gaelic games. So if you could develop those short videos, you could send them home with the kids and they could work on the skills at home. Because generally speaking, we have the kids for an hour, max 2 hours per week for training. So therefore, they're not really working on it at home if the parents aren't familiar with it. So we would see that as a huge avenue for people to use this app. It would be if you could create little shorter videos, 30 seconds to a minute, where they could work at home. So that's the challenge for us. And if we can get it over the line, we'd love to do more video work with the kids because they really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, but also the fact that now we have something to show people to, will help with that. So going back to that point of, we're now, gone through this process, we now have something there that's tangible to show people that if we are sourcing that extra funding, then it's nice to show and demonstrate as well the impact that this could have, because we're really looking forward to see how our coaches interact and engage with this over the coming weeks.
Well done, Fionn. What else? If you're all on one side, it's obviously... If you go down one side, it's very easy to defend. So therefore, it's very important that we use the 3 lanes. Can I have...
So this is integrated into the solution that you have been developing, all those videos.
Yeah,
yes.
Carol, we have the 8 videos up on the BST coach platform now, and you can create your session plans off the back of that if you want to. So you can drag and drop which video you want to do on each particular day and work off that at the training ground as well, and review the videos as a coach at home before you go to the pitch, because I'm sure anyone that works with kids, they need to be entertained or at least engaged. So you have to know your stuff. So the video will help new coaches with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that they can pick and choose what they want, but also I suppose it's not only the activity and the drill, but hopefully also coaching approach, coaching behavior, how we engage and interact with players, that when the coaches are watching the activity, they're actually listening to how the coaches are engaging and interacting. So it's also coaching, I suppose, assisting coaching practice, again in line with our coaching philosophy and values, and how we want to conduct our business across the board.
Thanks a lot, William and Derek. That was a very short time slot to present your passion, and we could feel it. So for all of you who have been listening to William and Derek, this was one example of one pilot team. And I'm gonna share a bit more now about where we are, where is the potential. You probably have already seen it and experienced it, but that's what comes from the application. Definitely through the project, we have, following the survey and the results that were presenting by Jakob earlier, we have last year published a call for application for as many people as possible to join this pilot application. And the call was for both grassroots sport organizations. So William and Derek were representing one of the grassroots sport organizations who was selected. It was also for solution providers. And all in all, in just 1 month, the crazy month of November, December, when everyone is super busy with all other activities as well, we received more than 70 applications from 22 different countries. So from the partnership, we just know that these demonstrate the interest from the various actors, from grassroots sport organizations, but also the solution providers. And Derek and William has mentioned BST. They were one of the solution providers selected to take part to our DigiFit journey. So the interest, we knew it from the survey, but we have also feel it through the application. So that's the next step. Survey is one thing, but you also need to show commitment, and that was the case with the application. And from there, we have selected 10 grassroots sport organizations, 10 solution providers, 10 mentors. Lucy, that we will hear later as a keynote, has been one of the mentors. We have been following the DigiFit. And we see the potential in the diversity, because at the bootcamp in Paris, there were 55 participants, 16 organizations represented, 14 different nationalities, 10 teams. And if the budget would have allowed us, we would have been even more. Not only the budget, but the space in the room, right? But we just saw the diversity, and this is very important because it also shows that from our side, DigiFit is also as a project a pilot, because we have selected very diverse grassroots sport organizations, from local sport clubs to very big ones that are the biggest multi-sport organization in their country, from NGOs to local regional authorities and etc. So the core focus was grassroots and interest for digitalization, but there was diversity even in the selected organization. And there was also diversity in the type of solution providers we were coming and joining. So it's very important to keep it in mind when we look in the future as well. The whole sector has interest into those opportunities. And what they all had in common was they want to advance, they want to go further, and they want to work together and to be challenged. That's what we saw in Paris and during the last 12 months we spent together. And when I talk about diversity, I will show briefly on those slides the area of focus of the 10 selected organizations. You can also find it in the online training tool, so I will not read everything. But basically, we had organization, you have already heard from Theories in Ireland, but we are going also to hear the story from the Estonian company sport, and then there's been from Italy, from France, from Greece, I will show later. But what you can see as well is that the area of focus, what they wanted to bring to their own stakeholders, was also very diverse. And that was something that we were really interested when developing this first version of DigiFit, not being specialized on one area of focus, but trying to see where we could apply. So servicing members were there, event management as well, and flexible membership, digital gadget as well. This was from Greece, recruiting new members. So very, very diverse area of interest and way of seeing how digitalization can help them. And another one that was of interest as well is infrastructure management. The local organization from the south of France was trying to deal with a fleet of vehicles. So something that is also very different than what we have heard from William and Derek, and what we will heard from Melvin in Denmark and from Kathleen in Estonia. So very diverse, very strong interest, and wish to go further. All of their stories and learnings will be shared in the online learning tool as well. So I don't want to take too much time here. I just want to share that the interest is there. We can see it as well from the number of participants to this webinar and the number of people who have asked for the replay. So it's very interesting. And another thing that I didn't mention, or not specifically, is the fact that there was very different culture. I mentioned the different settings, but also the cultures were very different. So we had to learn and unlearn and work together during this 12 months. So that's why we are saying that DigiFit is a pilot project to try and learn, and that's what we did in the 24 months that we have spent together so far. That's where the potential is as well, the diversity, the complexity, and from there we can find the solution. Very briefly to share in transparent where we are. From the beginning in Paris, there were 10 teams. 3 teams have dropped out, 3 totally different reasons. This includes the lack of support and buy-in from other volunteers in the organization, and that led to very difficult way of going forwards into the digitalization. So we get back to some of the challenges that we identify through the survey. There has been also the lack of time and the uncertainty with the politics, and this is the case from one of the French organizations with all that happens with the OGs, and also, well, I'm not gonna go into politics, but the situation is not that nice in the country, and that's one of the reasons. The other one reason that one of the team had to drop out was the lack of follow through from their board. The reason we are sharing this is because we have learned from this, and we have also a lot of things to share with you, and it will be shared in the online learning tool. What are the tips and tricks and what are the kind of things that you may want to avoid. There are things you cannot control, and there are things that we can try to help. So that's the purpose. And from the 7 teams, I should put an S here, that completed the journey so far, they are very different, as I mentioned, and the end results are also very different. We have heard one from Ireland, and we will hear 2 more today. And you will see that the status and the objectives are very different, and that's where we believe there is a lot of potential, because you probably will find something that is of interest to you. And that's it from my side at this stage. There will be room for any question. We are happy to take them. But now I would like to give the floor to Fiona. Well, before this, again, that's what I mentioned. We do have the online learning tool, and it's coming now. We are launching it officially, and you will find there feedback and learnings from the DigiFit journey. So this is what we have been doing so far. And Fiona from UCC, I'm inviting you to come to the virtual stage for the next time.
Thanks, Carol. It's such a pleasure to be with all of you this morning, or this afternoon for you guys. I'm dialing in from the States at the moment. So this has been the most exciting journey for me, because our team in UCC, we live and breathe design, digital and data. That's what we do for a living. So it's really compelling to be able to share with you what we've been doing in this project and how all of us have engaged with all of these problems. What I find really interesting is how Carol has been very honest about where we are in this project, because if you can imagine that this project in itself is an innovation project. So there are many things that will go right and many things that will go wrong during that project, but that's all part of an innovation journey. Could I go to the next slide? Thanks so much, Carol. So in that journey, if we go to this slide, we have had approximately a 12-month journey. It looks as though it is linear, but it's not actually linear. Weirdly, when we go through any innovation journey, trying to work out the issues and problems of grassroots sports clubs, all the way through to them developing their actual solutions, it's quite iterative. So things move backwards and forwards across this journey as we try and support those grassroots clubs to come up with the solution that matters and works for them. So on this timeline, you'll see that we had a warm-up session at one point, just to kind of get people into the zone of innovation. We had our boot camp, which was referenced. I'm going to talk about that more in a moment. And then we started on a journey of webinars, support webinars that have been running across the project and culminating in this particular event that we have now today. So it has been a really interesting journey with many, many people and expertise and all of that traveling with us on this particular pathway. Carol, could I have the next slide, please? So what we've been doing, we've been basically involved in a program of work. And Carol mentioned earlier that there were almost units traveling along this pathway. And what I mean by a unit, if we call each of those countries and grassroots clubs units, we essentially had a bundle of people working on each one. So we had the grassroots club, we had a mentor who was actually an expert in not only sport, but also technology. We had a sports tech provider, and we also had a design thinking ally. So this very, very first step here was where we trained in allies in design thinking, which is a form of human-centered design. And I'll talk to you about that in a moment. We then had our warm-up event just to get everybody in the groove. We had a boot camp, those webinars that I spoke to you about earlier, and then this DigiFit training program, which is now online and ready for you to view. If we go to the next slide, Carol. What I'm doing in the next slide is just giving you a sense of the types of activities that we conducted during these particular moments in the journey. So we were really heavily focused on something called empathy, trying to figure out, as William said earlier, what were the real challenges facing the grassroots clubs. So we did look at our research that Jakob talked about earlier, but we did a deep dive into what are the actual issues that are happening. We went through an empathy play shop when we had our warm-up event. We had the boot camp, which allowed us to really zoom in on that issue that was causing problems for the club. And we used really interesting methodologies to try and get at that, including Lego series play. We taught them how to pitch. We used pedagogical tools like the World Cafe. When we entered the incubation webinars, again, we're trying to build capacity in those teams. So we're talking about design sprints, peer pachakucha, journey mapping, all of these skills. And then finally, when we talk about the 5-module training program, which is online for you, we started developing things like the composite personas, journey mapping, and then tools around how to develop digital training itself. And what we're doing here, everybody, is we're trying in this methodology to create this meta level. In other words, no matter what you do on this project, and no matter what you see in our training tool, you're actually not only just learning about the issues facing clubs and how they dealt with them, you're also learning skills in innovation yourselves as you engage with the online training tool to help you to do this yourselves in your grassroots clubs. So I'm going to just do a little bit of a deeper dive onto this. We spoke earlier about the Design Thinking Bootcamp, and here we can see some of the team from University College Cork in Ireland. So we have Bryony Supple, who's on the call, Miriam Rigney, who's a new person joining our team, Sinead Moynihan and Nico Lorenzuti. You'll see all of them here. If we can move forward, thanks very much. So what I want to introduce you to is really the backbone behind this particular innovation program within DigiFit, okay, the how we did this. So there are 3 bubbles presented on the slide here. The first one is desirability, and if you press again, Carol, thank you so much. So in desirability, we have a boot camp going on, and the boot camp was a 3-day boot camp in Paris where we brought everybody together, as was outlined earlier. And what we were trying to find out in the boot camp across the 5 key areas that Jakob mentioned, what was the actual issue facing the grassroots club? Thereafter, if you click again, Carol, we moved on to the incubation phase. And that was all about working with this small idea that they had, working it out with their sports tech provider, with the support of their mentor. What was the feasibility around that particular idea? And then ultimately, what was the business plan behind that idea? So we moved in this circle or these circles from desirability to feasibility to viability across the innovation journey. If you move to the next slide, please. And what we did during this process, we had this as really the North Star. And that's this design thinking process, which is human-centered innovation. If you click again for me, Carol, please. So in the first phase of this, as we're moving through the how, we need to figure out what the problem is. That's the biggest thing you need to do when you're engaging in innovation. You've got to figure out what is going on for the grassroots club, not what I think it is, but what is going on for them. Once we figure out that narrow issue that matters to the club and to their members and everybody who's part of the club, we then move on to the solution space. So if you click again, Carol. And if you can see on this slide here, what's interesting is that we spend, if we had 5 days to fix a problem, we spend 4 days on working out the problem. And basically we have 1 day left to figure out what the solution is. So in other words, more time is spent using the data, getting the insights on what the problem is. Once we have that, we flip straight away into solution space. The next slide, please, Carol. And while we're actually doing that, I need you to think about this. It's not just a process, those 6 bubbles that you saw on the other slide. It's also having a mindset, a particular way of looking at things. And when we're engaged in innovation across that 12-month journey, things are going to go right. Things are going to go wrong, but we have an attitude to what we're doing that we're brave, we're curious, we're okay if things go wrong from time to time, we're able to take risks. So at the heart of everything we're doing on DigiFit, we have this particular mindset. We follow the process, as I outlined in the previous slide, and we also create really interesting learning spaces that are conducive to innovation. And we did that online and in person in this particular project. The next slide, please, Carol. I'm going to pass across now to my colleague Sinead Moynihan, who's going to talk a little bit more about the webinars that we conducted on the innovation pathway. Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. So as Fiona was outlining, our North Star was the design thinking methodology. And then within that, our other North Star really was making sure that we were working on that enabling design team. So making sure that the mindsets of the grassroots sports organizations, that they were ready for innovation and disruption. Because William put it so well. He said the past few months of the DigiFit journey has been exciting and challenging. And that's the reality when you step into this innovator landscape. It's like stepping into the unknown. So our process was really to support the mindset of stepping into that unknown with confidence and with psychological safety, as well as with the process being that design thinking process. So our first webinar back in March was a revisit of design sprints, what it is, and working on building that innovator mindset. And then we hopped to our second webinar, which was all about supporting the teams, because they were deep in the trenches of innovation at this stage. And we recognized there was definitely a need in the room to support the grassroots sports organization. So we had a check-in and a support session to support our teams on that innovation readiness journey. And then webinar 3, we brought some inspiration from a wonderful expert, Dr. Kieran Collins from Technological University Dublin, who's an expert in the field of sport tech and innovation and AI. And Kieran brought us plenty of inspiration as well as a lot of practical tips and tools for our teams and our mentors to use as they went into their test phase of their DigiFit journey. And just to quickly sum up our key takeaways from what we've observed and heard, and we've put all these into a one-stop shop for you guys in our DigiFit online training tool. So Jakob shared the QR code and Carl will share it again. It really is a wonderful tool that we've iterated following on from this journey that we've been on over the past 12 months. So innovation support is available. You are not alone as you step into this unknown. We've got our DigiFit online training course, and your local entrepreneurial networks can also support you on this journey. It is absolutely normal to feel challenged, a bit confused at times, and a bit tough when you enter the innovation space. Use the frameworks. We use the design thinking framework. It's a nice, solid framework to support the process. And the hardest part of innovation is change. And our invite to you here on the call is be that change champion in your organization. Thank you, Carl. Back over to you.
We are now going to hear 2 other stories from pilot teams. And the first one is from Estonia. So I'm inviting Kathleen to come to the virtual stage and share whatever you would like to share about your journey in the last month.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathleen from Estonia, and we have an organization called Estonian Company Sports Association. And what we do is that we organize different sports events for Estonian companies so that they could help their employees to stay sharp and stay fit and stay healthy. And why we wanted to join DigiFit was that right now our event management uses really much manual work. All the registration is through Excel, and we send information as timetables, instructions for different sports through emails to the participants, and so and that's why we get the really much the same questions are always asked. So we would really much like to get the platform that will do it for us. The registration would be smoother. The participants could get the information from the platform, and it takes a lot of work from the shoulders of us as the organizing company and also the company sports managers as well. Our goal in short term was to find out what the Novasport app is. The Novasport is the company, the startup we met during the bootcamp in Paris and started to collaborate with. And as they already had pretty similar platform and app as the one we wanted to make for ourselves, then it seemed like a really good match. So for now, our goal was to just investigate their app and see what we can do with it. But in the long term, we would really like to have a platform of our own. You can, yep, thanks. So as I mentioned, our target group is the participants of our events and also the organization management team, because the registration part is also tricky for us and for the company sports managers as well, who has to do it every time for over and over again to insert the same information about their participants. And yeah, we wanted to create a great platform so we can service our participating companies and their employees for a better event experience. And during the project, our main activities were that we every month we met with the Novasport team to at first to learn about the app, so that me and our other project manager could really know how this app, what are the possibilities that we can use in the app. And next step was to take this information and the knowledge about using the app to our member companies, especially the sports managers, to get their insight about their needs and wishes. And that was really valuable feedback for us, because at first we thought the app already has a lot of things that we need in our platform, but when we took the app to our participants, then it came out that we should add pretty many things to the app so that they could actually use it to register their companies. So what we wanted to do at the beginning, go back for a second. Yes, sorry. What we wanted to do at the beginning was to actually test the Novasport app in our events as well during the season, and get the feedback from the users as well, the participants. But as the development took really much time, then we couldn't actually do it at the end. Okay, so now we're ready. So the main challenge for us was that different actors, so us and our solution provider, was from different nationalities and different countries. So it took time to exchange emails, and due to that our mother languages aren't the same, it was sometimes really difficult to explain what is our ideas. And we thought that the other part understood us, but actually they didn't. So that took a lot of time and misunderstanding, and was one reason why I guess we didn't finish the goals we set for ourselves in the beginning. So the main learning was that we would really much need more time and of course financial resources as well to go ahead with the development and test the platform out. So we understood that the Novasport app really isn't 100% what we need, but we definitely learned that we can take parts from there, and we learned that there actually is pretty good example of the platform that we would like to use in Firma Sport in the future. So I guess one problem that we understood was that in case of Ireland and what Derek and William talked about, they created their own platform from the start, basically. But for us, at first, we thought that it's really good if we had the stakeholder who already had a platform, had an app. But as it turned out, then it's much more difficult to change what already is than to create something from the bottom. It seems funny, but as the Novasport already had their users and they had developed the app for the usage of university students at first, so it was pretty difficult to change things to our needs for companies and their employees. And as we organize big events, not like 2 hours trainings or 2 hours get together for footballs or something like that, then our in one word, it was just we understood that maybe it would be easier, of course, much more expensive to create platform from the start, but that's the thing we are going to do, I guess, in the future. So now we have mapped out our needs for this platform and app, so we can find some local partner from Estonia to maybe help us to create this platform for just ourselves. I'm not sure if I have another slide. Yep, well, that's basically what I talked about already. That we had this big dream. It didn't come through all the way, but we learned a lot. It was a great way for us to map out what we actually need and to not have some lucid dreams about what we actually can't do so quickly and with not enough financial support, but it's a good starting platform for sure, this project for us.
Thanks a lot, Kathleen. There's definitely a lot to learn and to reflect on, and I guess there might be some question afterwards, but we will first hear also another example from Denmark. And I don't know if you want to also share these questions, but that's, if I'm not mistaken, that was the reflection question you want to ask to our audience as well. So just feel free to take these extra seconds to explain what you want out of that.
Well, that's that for us. The money is always the problem, I guess, for everybody here. So we thought, what are the ways to keep the development costs as low as possible? We have been thinking about maybe connecting with universities. Maybe some students want to do their practical work or something to finish some course, and they would be able to help us with creating this platform for ourselves. But this will give us a problem that we will have, somebody creates us the platform, but we're going to need a person who actually handles it in the future as well if we have any problems. So I guess then the university students idea won't really work. So that's the main question we're struggling right now on, how to make it make the cost as low as possible, but get the most out of it.
Great. That's a reflection I'm sure that is echoing with many here. But if someone in the room has an answer, feel free to put it in the chat, inspire us all, and we can also explore it in the Q&A. Thanks a lot, Kathleen, for sharing your journey. And as I mentioned, the idea is now to move from Estonia to Denmark, not a very far jump in terms of distance across Europe. And I will invite Melvin to the virtual stage.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? I think my computer is acting up a little bit, so I do
can hear
apologize.
you. You're not showing up on the video, but we can hear you, Melvin.
Yeah, I do apologize with the camera. For some reason, my computer is acting a little bit up. I think it's my work. I'm at work right now, so it's blocking it, I think, because we use Teams instead of Zoom. So I do apologize. But yeah, I'm Melvin, and I am representative of AMA Boxing Club, a boxing club based in Copenhagen, Denmark. And AMA Boxing Club is a fairly new non-profit grassroots organization. It's actually the second youngest boxing club in Denmark and was founded about 3.5 years ago. And we are currently the fastest growing boxing club in Denmark with already more than 400 members. And that's where our challenges is. Luckily, with all, that was a little bit too quick. Can you go back? Yes. We are a newly awarded Boxing Club of the Year in Denmark. And actually, last week, we won the Sports Association of the Year in Copenhagen. So we're doing something right in the club. But unfortunately, with our strength is also our weaknesses, is because we are growing so fast right now that we have time limitation. As mentioned, we are a non-profit organization, so we are we have a lot of volunteers, but they also have full-time jobs, including myself, besides managing a club with 400 members. So if I can get the next slide, please. Thank you. As everybody knows, time is we're limited on time, and as a nonprofit, we're constantly running to make up time for the club and making time for our members. And as we are huge, there's a huge demand, and we're fast growing. So we needed to find some quick solution for our members. And before DigiFit, we actually had our recruitment through SoMe. So we used a lot of time making videos and posting it in SoMe and trying to recruit from there. And our administration actually went through an Excel file. So all our members that came in, they were registered in an Excel sheet, and the payment through an Excel sheet and bank transfer. So everything was so time consuming and administration heavy. And the way we communicated to our members was through emails and through messengers. So not everybody got the right information and came late to classes or forgot about some specific important dates that we had in the club. So our first step, just before we joined DigiFit, was actually moved through something called Motivo. That's a recruitment company. And we tried to move all our administration and communication through another app called Holdsport. And plus we had our homepage. So we are still having so many different apps around where we have all our communications and all administrations. So our goal is now through DigiShop is to try and streamline it a little bit, so our members and our trainers and everybody that's involved in the club try to make it a lot easier for them and less time consuming. So our goal, as mentioned many times in this call here, is a one-stop shop for both our members and our trainers. So how can we organize ourselves more streamlined for our shareholders? How can we merge different applications used on a daily basis in a one-stop shop for our members? And what we found out is through DigiFit is we would reach out to our different applications that we use and try to, how do you say it, let them talk to each other and maybe try and open up some API so they can go in and how do you call it? So they merge into one, so it makes it a lot easier for our members. So that was our challenge right now, is having two different companies talking to each other and opening up their system to one another. And luckily, Motivo with Morten have been very, very helpful to push for this and actually finally got an opening so we could get into Holsport and they could work together. And that's the next step. Morten, are you?
I'm here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of support from Morten here. So right now what's done is there's communication now for these two applications and there's alignment. It took a while, and with a lot of persistence from Morten's side, pushed a lot, and we got through. So I don't know if you want to explain this, Morten.
Sure. Yeah, well, this is Morten from representing Motivo. So we are the company that you see in the upper left-hand corner. So what we do is we help Amager Boxing Club try to recruit more members. So the users are signing up for a tryout through Motivo, but once they become a member, we want to integrate that into Holsport, which is the other system. So once they are a member, we want to get them into Holsport. So our job here was to do an integration between our system in Motivo and Hotspot. And some of the most time-consuming part was actually the initial part of getting the proper interest from Hotspot to even do the integration. So of course, this part about when you have more different parties that needs to align, we thought for a long time that this was actually in place. But then after a while, it seemed like it was not in place. So we went back into communicating with the CEO of Hotspot to make sure that they actually understood the purpose of this. So that took a long time. And finally, that was done, and we could get the CTO of Motivo and the CTO of Hotspot to actually do the integration. So we've reached the first step where we can actually now send data from Motivo over to Hotspot. So the initial part is done, but there's definitely a lot more to do in here to make this a lot more useful. As Melvin will definitely state as well, that to make this more useful for them, there's a lot of more data that needs to be sent, and also the places that we need to place this within Hotspot. But it's a very, very important first step to actually get this first integration in between the recruiting system and the membership system. Because what we see in general is that what sports clubs are striving for is really to get more members, but also a very, very important thing is to decrease the administration burden. So this part about doing this integration and making sure that it just works automatically, we can see is very important. So there's going to be multiple steps from here, and it's going to be fantastic. We can do this for multiple sports clubs in Denmark.
And that was pretty much the goal to begin with, right? So to begin with, it was us, but we also wanted to open this up for more clubs in Denmark that can utilize and use this, so it's fruitful for everybody. That was it from my end. Very short.
Thanks a lot, Melvin and Morten. Very great to have the two of you here and share the perspective both from the grassroots sport organization and the solution providers. That's another level of example. And as I mentioned, it's part of the diversity. So we have heard three different stories. I'm mindful of the time. And what I would suggest is that we move to our keynote now, reflection from Lucy Mills, and then we get to the Q&A where the audience can ask some question to all of us who have been sharing information and etc. Just for the sake of the time and making sure that we're good with it. Thanks a lot, Melvin and Morten. Thanks, Kathleen, for sharing those inspiring stories, sharing your challenges, but also what you have learned. That was very moving. So, and yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. You have been a mentor within the DigiFit, and it's just also a pleasure to have you. So please feel free to come on the virtual stage, introduce yourself, and we are eager to hear your own perspective on digitalization and change management.
Great. Thank you so much, Carol. Thank you, Team ISCA and partners of the project as well. So Carol will be helping with the PowerPoint presentation. Great. Okay, so really great to be here for the next 10 minutes. So the topic is around digitalization and change management. So saying confirm your language. It says I'm speaking Portuguese.
I confirm you are speaking English. I don't know why you're telling you're in Portuguese.
So today just want to give a quick introduction to Ready. I want to have some time for us to reflect, thinking about looking into the future and thinking about what we want our grassroots sports organizations to be, to look like. I'm going to offer some insights based on the learnings and the work that we have been doing over the past number of years with diverse sports organizations. I want to zoom in particularly on this topic of change management, workforce training, which is a fundamental aspect for getting our organizations ready for the future. So very quick introduction to Ready. Next slide. So we actually started out as an educational initiative in response to the digital gender gap in sport and sports tech. And so on the next slide, Carol, we set out to initially to deliver learning experiences with women's sport and particularly women on emerging technologies. We started off with blockchain and have evolved, and really technologies that are impacting our daily lives and indeed the world of sport. And particularly for women's sport, we were concerned that this divide that we've been seeing in sport and sports tech would increase. So that was the origins of Ready. It was about getting people together, running courses and trainings and workshops in welcoming, informal, positive learning environments. Fast forward today onto the next slide. So we continue with the Learning Hub activities, and a lot of the insights from today are taken from lots of work that we've been doing with organizations, federations, athletes on digital transformation, artificial intelligence, blockchain. And then on the second part, we've been growing out the consulting and advisory area, which is at the intersection of sports, technology, and social impact. So always thinking about technology to underpin and promote inclusion and impact in and through sport. So yeah, work with a number of different types of individuals and organizations across the sports ecosystem. So today I want us to reflect on, so we've been obsessed with, okay, getting sport ready for the future. What does that look like? How do we get there? So first of all, next slide, Carol. For ourselves, so we have boxing club, we have all different types of sports in different contexts and communities. So what do we want our organizations to be in the future? And so if we project ourselves in the future, of course, it's very difficult with all of the rapid technological changes and cultural shifts and so on. But for us, what is a future-ready grassroots sports organization? Next slide. We would say that really, ultimately, it's about continuing to make meaningful difference in people's lives by increasing access to sports, player development, building community spirit. Whatever your mission mandate as a sports organization is, leading with impact, relevance in the long term. And so any digital innovation, we're in a digital world, this digital innovation has to align with and support the missions and the values. So yes, thinking about new technologies and apps and all of the things that we've talked about today, but making sure that they stay true to the core purpose of the organization, right? So just have a think within your own organizations. Are you feeling like you're future ready? Is digital transformation aligning with supporting your work? Then we're going to move on to some of the insights on how we at Ready, we've been working with different groups and thinking about some of the ways that we can get there. So next slide. Yeah, so how do we get there? How do we start to think about being a future ready organization? So we've been really immersed in precisely this, with on the professional side, with athletes and professional clubs, through to NGOs, community organizations, and much of this is related to digital emerging technologies, but not in an isolated way, in an integrated way. So talking about these tools to support our work, to improve experiences, inclusion, access, and so on. We've identified here, there's 6 insights, and you can reflect on these in your own work and organizations, and there might be more, but these are kind of 6 key blocks that can get organizations ready. The first one, workforce training, change management in a rapidly changing world. So we know that technology is evolving quickly, but the rate of change, particularly now with artificial intelligence, is incredible. So staff and volunteers, we need to be adapting and learning and connecting with trends, and thinking about ethical considerations, and a huge piece here. Second one, optimizing operations. This is what Melvin just said now from Denmark. So many grassroots organizations operate with minimal resources, rely heavily on volunteers. We know that through this DigiFit project that tools can automate, simplify, save time, free up time for other things. But if we go a step further to the point of Melvin's example, imagine all of these tools, scheduling software, membership databases, communications platforms, work seamlessly together. And if you can then think about it from a user perspective or a fan perspective, or from members' perspective, we expect today seamless communication. We expect personalized interactions, and we get that in many other areas of our lives. So as well, with younger people and the kind of digital trends, to attract and retain people in the long term, we need to be meeting people where they are and offering this optimized, seamless digital journey. The third one, deploying data science to identify and understand key stakeholders and impact. Data can tell stories, can communicate the organization's value, who is participating, where the gaps are, how programs can help people. We also know that understanding and knowing audiences can help build loyalty, build emotional connection, build retention in this crazy world of distraction and attention span that we're living in. The fourth one, kind of linked to this, and delivering customized experiences, and to be purposeful about inclusion. So Dr. Fiona Chambers talked about the human-centered design approaches, and I think this is true as well for our organization. So personalization of content, of programs, events that strengthen bonds between our different groups. The fifth one, partnerships, ecosystem building to amplify impact, share, promote shared value. Many organizations, grassroots sports organizations, have excellent partnerships. This is a trend that will continue as there is greater connectivity, greater interoperability between spaces and between groups. The sixth one, enhancing existing fundraising efforts and implementing new monetization initiatives in the virtual economy. So on the professional sports space, you've got the typical verticals like sponsorship and TV rights and match days, but then for grassroots sports organizations, you have membership subscriptions and grants, and these existing revenue generation verticals are being enhanced by digitalization. And then there are indeed new monetary opportunities as well to be explored in the virtual economy. We will be seeing that more and more. So few insights there in some of the hows. There might be other things that come to mind for you when you're thinking about your own organizations. Next, I just want to zoom in on one very specific one aspect, which is actually the workforce and change management aspect, as this is the focus of my talk. So we know that there's the challenges of change, right? The resistance to change, lack of resources, volunteer turnover. Jacob at the beginning presented these findings from a survey that was conducted. And then we have the opportunity of change, right? So some of the benefits around enhanced reach and streamlining operations and better engagement with members that have also been showcased through the case studies of our guests today. So we're in this situation where we want to overcome the challenges of change, and we want to unlock the opportunities of change. And so we can look at, and I think intuitively we've been working a lot in this, we've been looking at these frameworks of change and core principles of change management for how we bridge this gap. And we've touched on some of these today as well. Leadership buy-in, clear vision, incremental adoption. And for us, when we've been working with sports organizations, athletes, companies, we are leaning into and supporting these core principles as well. And I would say that at Ready, we've been really focused on the first two, awareness and buy-in, so engaging stakeholders from different parts of the sports ecosystem with relatable communication, examples, rationale for change, and then capacity building. So the education, the training, the workshops, demystifying technologies and concepts like AI. And in the next slide, just in how we've been going about raising awareness and building capacity. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration of what this might look like when you're engaging your volunteers and your teams and your partners as that first step of change. It builds confidence and buy-in. And I guess as a constant throughout the digital transformation process is that you know, we've done loads of workshops and events and trainings with actually thousands of industry professionals now and volunteers and teams and coaches and so on these topics. And there's several key things really. And the message for us is that firstly, yes, we need to be intentional about who we're engaging. Secondly, we have to have this overinvestment in and so we've been you know, you can talk about growing women's sport with through technology and AI, but we need to really think about how are we making it relevant and relatable to women's sport. So creating those spaces, using case studies and examples, and you know, just in a continuous way, making people feel like, okay, this is not an alien tech bro sports tech thing. This is actually, we're spending 8 hours plus a day on computers, and this is part of my daily life, and that's an extension into my work. And we're seeing grassroots organizations engage and be really innovative in how they're thinking, whether that's around community governance models or coach education interaction or tracking performance. And so when we have this intentional design of educational initiatives on topics that are relevant, that are practical, that are grounded in the realities of practitioners, we're seeing a really good uptake and interest and engagement around these topics. And so finally, next couple of slides, just to bring it back to the you know, the how do we get ourselves future ready? I would say that the first one, really workforce and change management in a rapidly changing world, is certainly key for these additional things to happen. And finally, in conclusion, next slide. I think just final point, think about what your sports organization, what you want it to be in the future. What are the ways that you will get there? There are really good open source, accessible, relevant tools and information and courses and support out there, like the DigiFit online course. And the more that we familiarize and we normalize digitalization in and around our work, that that will ease and help with the change management process. So thank you so much for listening. Always available to be connected with on email or LinkedIn. And yeah, congratulations on such a brilliant project.
Thanks a lot, Lucy. You were part of it, so congratulations to you as well. And thanks for challenging us with the thoughts and the questions. And I'm just curious to hear if anyone has questions. This is a time before we officially close. I will keep these slides open so that you can get Lucy's informations and details. But if you have any questions, please feel free to open the mic. I would be happy to. We started 5 minutes after the time, so we do have still extra minutes. So if there is one pressing questions coming up from the crowd, this is your chance to showcase. And I've seen that otherwise we have one in the chat, but let's see if anyone wants to open the mic. Everyone is super shy or is super inspired or working on the question you asked, Lucy. I think we lost people because they're focusing on the question here. I could see one question in the chat, and maybe we can take a few ideas from all of you in the Morten and Kathleen and Lucy and also Melvin. But if there's one tips that you will give about finding out the right solution providers, how to identify them, that would be very interesting. Kathleen, I see that you have been answering directly in the chat, but if any one of you, Morten, Melvin, or Lucy, would like to share a thought about it, how to get beyond the guts feeling of finding the right solution providers, and how to make sure that we pick one that is aligned with our mission and vision.
I suppose, Carol, for us, William here, with Derek and Faries, I suppose for us in that boot camp, we had to first of all really refine our thoughts, number one, to what we're really looking for, and get clarity in our own mind. That was our first task, which we did. Then we had to present to the solution providers on what is it that we were looking for and what we were trying to achieve. And then the solution providers presented their, I suppose, how they could support us in what we're trying to achieve. And I think, through those conversations, you get real clarity around, okay, I always say, once you're clear yourself, then you'll have a better idea of who you're looking for. And I think that was helped us. So we got clarity first. Then when we had those conversations with the solution providers, it became very evident really through those conversations of, okay, who was in line with, okay, what we're trying to achieve. So I thought that process really helped us. So getting clarity ourselves. I think that was important. That's the first thing of what is it we're looking for and what we're trying to achieve. Then we presented, which gave the solution providers an idea of what is the end goal there. But then when we had the conversation with the solution providers, through conversation, through asking questions, I think it became more clear then of what we're looking for and who was the right solution for us based on that. I don't know, does that answer the question, Karen? But that was just a process that helped us.
No, thanks a lot, William. I think it contributes. It's providing one way of addressing the questions, and it's very interesting. And there is some more information in the chat, and we will follow through. But thanks a lot for sharing your experience and your ideas. I can see there is some more questions coming in, and thanks a lot to all of the. You can see the power of partnerships when there is answers coming in from the partners in the chat and in the questions. That's good to see it in real life. I promise I didn't make this Food for Thoughts building on Lucy name of our own organization, but really, I think that's what we agreed with the partners, that it really, the DigiFit journey and what we have been doing through this piloting experiment is really about how do we become a change-ready organization. It's we are never ready, but we can become change-ready somehow. What I mean by this is that we can train our culture, we can try to force ourselves to be in uncomfortable situation. Eric, I saw one of your questions in the chat, and I think we will get back to this afterwards, but it's all about this, how we can improve our own organization. But the only things we want to tell you is that we are a small community, we are building it together. The online training tool has been mentioned a bunch of times, so you understood that. We are launching it officially next week, and you're the first that we have been really presenting a lot of information to today. So we will be grateful if you can share it with your own networks, take the tool, share afterwards your feedback. We are hoping that it can be one resource among others that can help you in your journey to get ready to serve even better your community. That's the purpose of it. And on this note, I'm not gonna take too much more of your time. I just want to thank you on behalf of the whole partnership on the table. So behind the DigiFit was EPSI, DGI, UCC team, PRN from France, and IDPG from Portugal, and ISCA. And it has been a pleasure to host you today. And on this message, I will wish you a very great afternoon. Thanks a lot for all of you who contributed, and thanks a lot to all of you who joined us today.